Chapter 2. The Sheriff, Flashback. The drive to Arkansas took 11 hours. Marley left before dawn the day after the cop came to her door, threw a bag in the Nova's trunk, and pointed the car east. Texas to Arkansas. Highway miles that blurred together into gas stations and roadside diners, and the particular loneliness of driving alone with news you haven't processed yet. Your mother is dead. Deceased. The words sat in the passenger seat like a ghost. She crossed into Arkansas just after dark, found a motel that rented by the hour but didn't ask questions, and slept 4 hours that felt like none. In the morning she drove to the address the young cop had written down. Sheriff's Office, Sevier County. The building was low and brick, squatting beside a Dollar General and a Dairy Queen in a town that looked like it was already forgetting itself. Marley parked in the gravel lot, walked to the door, and went inside. The air smelled like stale coffee and cigarettes embedded in the walls. Linoleum floors. Fluorescent lights that flickered in the corner. A receptionist sat behind a desk with a dying spider plant beside the phone. She looked up when Marley entered, appraising her with the particular indifference of small-town government workers who'd seen too much and cared too little. Help you? I'm here about Rebecca Crenshaw, the body that was found. The receptionist's face didn't change. You're the daughter? Yes. Sheriff's expecting you. Have a seat. Marley sat in one of the plastic chairs bolted to the wall and waited. The waiting room was a study in institutional neglect. Yellowed posters about drunk driving and domestic violence hung crooked on the walls. A water cooler gurgled in the corner, the jug nearly empty. Someone's radio played low in a back room. Country music, twangy and mournful. The clock on the wall said 9:47. It felt later. Minutes crawled. Marley watched the clock tick over to 10:00, then 10:05, then 10:10. At 10:15 the sheriff finally came out, a thick man in his 50s with a gut that strained his uniform shirt and eyes that had stopped caring about anything years ago. He introduced himself as Sheriff Polk, shook her hand with a grip that was perfunctory, and led her back to his office without small talk. The office was small and cluttered. File boxes stacked in the corner. A calendar from 1975 still on the wall. He sat behind his desk and pulled a manila folder from the stack. I'm sorry for your loss, Miss Crenshaw. The words sounded rehearsed. Thank you. He opened the folder. The medical examiner has already released the remains. You'll need to sign some paperwork, arrange for transport. The funeral home in town can help if you don't want to take her back yourself. What happened to her? Sheriff Polk looked up, something flickering in his eyes. Pity maybe, or exhaustion. Me will give you the details. I can tell you what we know. A hunter found the remains in a wooded area about 15 miles outside of town. Hard to access. Took us 2 days to get the body out. When did she die? You'll have to ask Dr. Williams. Who killed her? Polk's expression didn't change. Case is still open, but realistically, Miss Crenshaw, we don't have much to go on. It's been a while. Evidence is limited. We'll do what we can. Translation. They weren't going to do anything. Marley felt something cold settle in her chest. Can I see the medical examiner now? He's expecting you. Dr. Williams worked out of a low building behind the county hospital. Not a morgue, exactly, just a room with refrigeration units and steel tables and the smell of antiseptic trying to cover something worse underneath. The linoleum was cracked. The fluorescent lights hummed. Everything had the particular sadness of government facilities operating on too little budget for too much death. He was younger than she expected. Early 40s, wire-rimmed glasses, the kind of man who looked like he'd been a Boy Scout and still believed in rules. He shook her hand gently, his palm cool and professional, and offered his condolences in a voice that had delivered this speech too many times. He led her to his small office, gestured to a chair across from a desk that was too neat for the work he did. File folders stacked precisely. A framed diploma from the University of Arkansas Medical Sciences. A coffee mug that said, "World's Best Dad," with a chip in the rim. I know this is difficult, he said, sitting behind the desk and folding his hands. I'll try to be as clear as possible. Marley sat, When did she die? Dr. Williams adjusted his glasses. Based on decomposition and insect activity, I estimate she'd been deceased between 4 and 6 weeks when the body was found. 4 to 6 weeks. Not 4 years. The room tilted. You're saying she was alive? Until recently, yes. His voice was steady, clinical, the way doctors deliver bad news when they've done it too many times. The remains showed evidence of long-term captivity and sustained abuse. Healed fractures consistent with repeated trauma. Malnutrition. Signs that she'd been restrained for an extended period. The words landed like blows. Long-term captivity. Extended period. How long? Dr. Williams hesitated. It's hard to say definitively, but based on bone remodeling and scar tissue. Years. Possibly the entire time she was missing. 3.5 years. Her mother had been alive, held somewhere, captive, waiting for 3.5 years. Someone could have saved her. If anyone had looked. If the cops in Texas hadn't laughed. If the system had cared about one more missing lot lizard. If Marley had pushed harder, searched better, refused to give up. Dr. Williams was still talking. Something about evidence collection and the autopsy report and how cause of death was strangulation, but there were complications given the condition of the remains. Marley heard it all through water, through fog, through the roaring in her ears that sounded like rage taking root. Miss Crenshaw? She looked up. Do you have any questions? Just one. Did she suffer? Dr. Williams' face softened. It wasn't pity, just truth. Yes. I'm sorry. Marley walked out of the medical examiner's office and stood in the parking lot under a gray Arkansas sky that looked like it might rain but didn't. The air was thick, humid, wrong. Her mother had been alive somewhere, being hurt, waiting for someone to find her. And no one came. Not the cops who'd laughed at the missing persons report. Not the FBI, who didn't investigate dead prostitutes. Not the system that was supposed to protect people. Not Marley. A memory surfaced. August 1973, the police station in Corpus Christi. Marley at 24, standing at the desk, trying to file a report. Her mother had been gone for 48 hours. Missed their usual Sunday call. Wasn't answering at the motel where she stayed between runs. The cop behind the desk had been tired, bored, already dismissing her before she finished talking. He'd been eating a sandwich, tuna, she remembered, the smell of it mixing with the station's coffee and sweat. Lot lizards take off all the time, sweetheart. She'll turn up when she runs out of money. She wouldn't just leave without telling me. We talk every Sunday. Something's wrong. They always say that. Eyes flat with the particular indifference of someone who'd heard the story before and didn't care. Your mama's a working girl, right? Truck stops? They move around. Probably met some driver, went to Tucson or Phoenix. Give it a week. She wouldn't. Fill this out if you want. He'd pushed a form across the desk anyway, more to get rid of her than to help. But I'm telling you, she'll show up. They always do. Or they don't. And there's nothing we can do about it either way. She hadn't shown up. Not until she was already dead. Marley claimed her mother's remains the next day. They came in a cardboard box, sealed and labeled, smaller than she'd expected. The funeral home offered to ship them, but Marley said no. She put the box in the passenger seat of her Nova and drove back to Texas with her mother beside her one more time. She buried Rebecca in a cemetery outside of Memphis where the plots were cheap and the grass grew wild. No service. No mourners. Just Marley and a funeral director who didn't ask questions and a hole in the ground that was supposed to mean something. The director was a thin man in his 60s who'd clearly done this too many times. He stood at a respectful distance while 2 workers lowered the box into the ground. It took less than 5 minutes. They filled the hole with a backhoe, tamped the dirt down, and left without looking back. Marley stood there after they were gone. The cemetery was quiet, except for the wind moving through the trees and the distant sound of traffic on the highway. Other graves stretched out in neat rows, names and dates carved into stone, flowers wilting in the heat. Rebecca's plot had a temporary marker. A metal stake with a paper card in a plastic sleeve. Rebecca Crenshaw, 1930 to 1977. It should have felt like closure. It didn't. Standing there, looking at the fresh dirt, Marley felt the rage that had been building since Arkansas solidify into something colder. Something purposeful. Marley turned away from the grave and walked back to her car. The cardboard box was gone. What remained was a question she couldn't stop asking. What if someone did care? What if someone acted? The highway stretched ahead. The same highways where her mother had been taken. Where she'd been held. Where she'd died. Marley got in the Nova and drove. The rage rode shotgun.